Economics should be interesting, should be fun. We'll also share some interesting news we've gotten from different parachain projects. So stay tuned. Give us a couple minutes to get everyone in here. Hey, Taylor.
So from my understanding, Bree's not going to be able to make it tonight because of connection issues she's having from mainland China getting to Clubhouse. So I'll be happy to fill in for her.
Ah, okay. Thanks for letting us know, Megan. That's too bad. But we will definitely reach out to her and send her the recording so that she can share it in her channels. All right, let me ping some of the Robonomics guys in here.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Michelle, good to see you.
Excited to be here. I love robots and metaverse.
We'll get both of them today.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Vitaly. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, everybody.
Doing good.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Vitaly. Hey, Dylan.
Hello. Good.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello. How is everyone?
We're doing well. Just getting people into the room, and we'll be starting here shortly. I will mention as people are coming in, just for fun, if you guys have a second, go out and look for, I'll see if I can link it on here, one of our regular moderators and one of the co-founders of Polka Haus, Irvin Cardinis. He's a developer, Substrate Developer Academy graduate, but also building now on Solana. But he was speaking at the Solana Breakpoint event, and he mentioned Polka Haus on the main stage and during his talk. So if you guys can go out and take a look, listen, and it's pretty cool little talk, cool project that he's working on over there. Hey, Mark, welcome.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, good to see you again.
We got one letter off Italian here with us.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great evening that we did a couple of weeks ago in San Francisco.
Yeah, it was a fun event.
Thanks for organizing.
No, I mean, that was a lot of work was done by Mark here, so I'll let him take full credit for that event.
We all did it. It was fun, and we should absolutely do more of those.
Yeah, man. New York City event incoming. We're working on the final details here. Shooting for December still, but we may need to push it into January, but stay tuned for details on that.
Looking forward to it.
Sounds like snow.
Yeah. Snow and skateboards. We'll see how well that mixes. Give us one more minute to get a couple more people in here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, we usually give this about 5 minutes, so we'll go ahead and get started here. All right, we get some more people up on our stage.
Coming raft degens, Alex.
Yeah, I see that. We got the raft crew in here. Welcome, Chris.
What's up, brother? I was just doing TA and I was like, oh, Polka House room. Let's all go over there.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Yeah, I was listening in. Interesting day today from a TA perspective. But we'll go ahead and kick off, guys. Welcome to Polka House, episode 15. We've got Darwinia back on, who joined us early on in the Polka House days, and we've got Robonomics, two very interesting, very unique projects deploying onto Polkadot and Kusama, and really looking forward to learning about what they're doing. So with that, I'll kind of go ahead and kick off with short intros. Megan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself on the Darwini side?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan. I'm a moderator and community manager for Darwinia. Most people who have frequented our channels have spoken with me at one point or another. I've been with the project for about a year, and I'm just filling in for Bree here today because she's having some connection issues from mainland China. Basically, what we're doing is we're bridging Web3 at some of the lowest levels of infrastructure technology. We're using zero knowledge proofs and optimistic challenge technology to bridge chains in a vaultless way and without wrapping tokens. So we're exploring some pretty cutting edge technology, and have been working with Parity and the Polkadot, various Polkadot teams for the last 3 years or so. And our main nets have been live for over a year now at Darwinia, and also Crab Network, which is going for parachain on Kusama. So that's basically Darwinia in a nutshell. As we're a cross-chain bridge protocol.
Awesome, Megan. Thank you. And Dylan and Vitaly, would you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves on the Robonomics side?
Sure, I can go first. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. Yeah, so my name's Dylan Hanson. I've been a part of the Robonomics team for about 5 months now. So actually, I guess a rather new member of the team. I work primarily on the customer development side of the team, which is mostly consisting of interviews and productive conversations with IoT experts and roboticists and other people in similar fields. And so basically on my side of the team, what we strive to do is create productive conversations through which we can learn more about the needs and the demands of such developers in the IoT and robotics space. And Robonomics is striving to create a product that can have enough flexibility to suit many of the needs that will be included in creating what we like to phrase as the economy of robots, or rather not create, but enabling the economy of robots. So I'll pass it to Vitaly from here before we go any deeper.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vitaly. I've been part of the Robonomics team for almost 5 years now, as long as the project exists. And I always was on the application side. So I saw potential in Robonomics to connect almost any smart device, like a robot, a sensor, anything in the physical world, actually, to the digital economy, so that we as humans can transact with those devices, and those devices can actually transact with each other in a fully autonomous supply chain. So I was always focusing on the application side, building drone traffic management solution on Robonomics, and different use cases for smart manufacturing and what we call Industry 4.0. And most recently, I focused on a product for financing industrial robots using Robonomics network as well. So it's a centralized finance product that gives you access to the manufacturing, to the physical economy.
All right, thanks, Vitaly. And now that we've freaked everyone else in the room out talking about robots and the blockchain, let's scale it back a tiny bit. Talk to us about Robonomics. What is it? What is it intending to do? I've been excited for the project for about 4 or 5 years as well. Actually, I invested in the early days back when this thing was built on Ethereum and not even thinking about Polkadot. Polkadot wasn't even a thing back then. So explain to us what Robonomics is, why Polkadot, why Kusama specifically, and let's try and get a crowd loan slot for you guys, man. You've been vying for one for a while. I think Robonomics needs to get in and test out some of these cool features. So Vitaly, Dylan, expand on Robonomics.
Yeah, so to put it simply, yes, Robonomics allows to connect anything, any smart device to the blockchain. Why we actually need that? Because we think that economy is becoming more automated already. We have manufacturing some manufacturing lines are already fully automated. Yet there is no instrument of how those autonomous machines that already exist can actually transfer value. So if you want to order a service from a robot, that's something you need this robot to have an identity, a wallet, and ability to create a contract with you. So that is why when Ethereum launched, we saw an opportunity to actually, we saw that cryptocurrencies are essentially the money for robots. And when Ethereum launched with smart contracts, that was essentially contracts for robots because they're digital native and they're suitable for robots to use. And then as we continued building on Ethereum, I would say more use cases started to appear that didn't allow us to realize that on Ethereum because of high transaction fees and low throughput. And around that time, Polkadot was starting to also being developed or even thought about. So we read the white paper and understood the potential that we actually can have a much more transaction volume. We can have transactions cheaper, and we can enable interesting functionality that we couldn't do in Ethereum. For example, subscription model. A subscription model is really standard and common in robotics and IoT. So now we actually can realize a subscription model for devices based on substrate, and hopefully soon will be part of Kusama as well.
Yeah, and just to add on, or kind of to scale things back a little bit in terms of how I like to think of it, I think there's sometimes a misconception just when you hear the word robot. If you're not in the space too closely, you can just think of a robot that's walking around on the street or something that you have to like coexist with.
Or the
We will be
Terminator.
coexist. Right, exactly. So it kind of has this like scary idea behind it. But when Robonomics kind of discusses robots, it's kind of referring to this idea of an autonomous machine device that can exist and make autonomous decisions and transactions and such. So when we're very evidently transitioning into a world where there's a ton of IoT devices, and IoT is short for Internet of Things. And so these IoT devices are constantly gathering and storing telemetry data. And so the storage of this telemetry data and the ability to transact it and furthermore monetize it is something that Robonomics is seeking to kind of enable through creating this decentralized infrastructure for IoT and smart city developers.
Yeah, I find it fascinating, guys, and thanks for that introduction into what Robonomics is doing and what it's trying to do. Can we talk a little bit about your plans for Kusama? I know you guys are vying for a parachain slot. Can you talk to us what you intend to do on Kusama and how you intend to deploy? And then are you planning on moving over to Polkadot? What are the plans there for the project?
Yeah, so let me take this then. So the plan, I think we were one of the first or the first team to actually have a working prototype on Rococo. So we're quite early on the technical side, and we already have a launched frontier network, what we call it, that actually records transactions from robots that we have deployed in the field, so in factories and in the lab for educational robots. So right now, the frontier network on Substrate is already used to gather data from the devices that Dylan mentioned. And as we get the substrate, as we get the Kusama slot, we'll be able to start thinking about things like unifying our tokenomics on both Ethereum and Kusama, so that we can actually have a unified tokenomics. And also things like subscription model that I explained, and connecting more use cases and bridging to other networks that we can give access to the physical world too.
Thanks for that. You wanted to add something, Dylan?
Yeah, sure. So we've been participating in the auction since the first round, and we've actually been kind of we've had like a fairly good chance at getting them so far. I think we've been in the top 5 or 6 at once it ends for most, and so it's always looking like, it's looking like we have continued supporters, but obviously, I feel like we need to continue to inform people about exactly what it is that attaching to Kusama will do, as Vitaly was referencing. And so, yeah, I mean, it'll kind of be like the first, the first launch of what Robonomics has always kind of sought out to achieve. And it'll enable Robonomics of serving up to 10,000 digital twins and IoT devices simultaneously. These are different IoT devices all connecting and transacting at the same time. And so the kind of the roadmap has always been to obtain Kusama and develop for 2 years prior to launching on Polkadot. And so the last thing I'd kind of say is like, why Robonomics parachain? So to kind of take a step back, Robonomics, I think another kind of misconception is like, and we'll get into the applications as we get more into the chat, but a lot of people are like, okay, so what's the use case? What's the use case? And that's kind of not, in my opinion, the best way to think about it, because the idea of Robonomics is to enable all of the infinite use cases that are accompanied with the development of IoT and robotics devices. So there are kind of like, if you think about it, like infinite use cases that can be developed on top of Robonomics. And so securing the parachain is obviously kind of this infrastructural layer that will allow these different applications to be attached to Robonomics while obtaining the security from the Kusama relay chain. And so that is why once we obtain Kusama, it's going to fully enable the further development of kind of everything Robonomics has been working to develop.
Well, let's go ahead and go into that, Dylan. Talk to us about the latest, research that you guys have done, some of the latest, updates that Robonomics is pushing, specifically on the devices and on that side of it. Go ahead and talk to us about that. Kind of get us excited about this parachain slot.
Sure. So so it's where do I start? So I guess in terms of recent updates and this, I'll dive into more of the parachain slot, but you also referenced like development. And so recently, actually, the core development team, this is pretty exciting, has been working on hardware sensors, which is a new way of tying kind of like a value into the ecosystem and considering a different way of different perspective of valuing the ecosystem when there's a decentralized or when there's hardware sensors actually being developed. And so I don't want to like speak out of turn. I feel like I should pass it to Vitaly, who will probably do a better explanation on technical level of explaining exactly all of these different functions that the parachain will enable.
Sure. So basically, the two key functions from developer point of view that Robonomics enables me to do is launch and data log. And they're pretty straightforward. Launch allows me to launch any action on a device based on a transaction from the blockchain. So an example here is that the project we did recently, we actually bought a Boston Dynamics spot robot, this robot dog that everybody knows, and we connected it to Robonomics, and now anybody can pay directly to the robot for an hour and connect to it to develop something on it or just play around with it. So essentially, robot sells its time based on a transaction from the blockchain. So you can hire a robot hourly to do something. And the second function that Robonomics enables me to do is data log. And this basically has a endless number of applications, but in particular, we have a factory that's working with us that is building drones, and this factory has a number of cameras on a line that record every single part that goes on a conveyor belt, and records the timestamp about that. Well, first of all, records the data in IPFS, but then records the timestamp and all the hash from IPFS on the blockchain. So this way we can actually build a fully transparent supply chain, and like anybody can audit when the specific product was built, where the parts came from, and this is basically enables to do a secure and efficient enterprise management system, even I would say, because everything on the enterprise is connected.
That's great, Vitaly. Yeah, I've been following the supply chain side of the stuff that you guys are doing, and I think it's actually very interesting and can provide some actual real use case and solve a lot of the problems that are currently, being undertaken on the supply chain internationally. So excited to see where all of that goes. We're going to pause a little bit with Robonomics and move over to Darwinia for a bit, and then we'll come back and talk to both projects at the end. But Megan, talk to us a little bit about Darwinia. What is it? What's it trying to do? I think one of my mods told me you're no longer going for a Kusama parachain slot, only Polkadot. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I'm sure some of you are wondering how Darwinia and evolution.land kind of play together. And in a nutshell, Darwinia is designed to be the foundational layer of evolution.land. The game is designed with cross-chain interactions from the start, and we're going to be supporting up to 26 different blockchains, and we've got 5 of them already connected: Ethereum, Tron, Hiko, Polygon. And soon we're going to be launching our Columbus continent on our Crab network, which is the network which is going for the Kusama parachain slot. And we have paused our approach there for the Kusama slot auction. We've decided we're going to kind of take one thing at a time and focus on the Polkadot parachain auctions for now. And once we've finished with our bid, whether it's successful or not, we'll move on and re-enlist Crab Network for parachain auctions on Kusama, probably in the new year. So yeah, we had a bit of a rebrand and took a bit of a break. Formerly, the token on Crab was called C-Ring. And we had some confusion with that because C-Ring kind of sounds like a test net token. And so just to eliminate that kind of confusion, we went with the rebrand to Crab, and some of the exchanges are lagging behind even now, a month or so after we've made those changes. Yeah,
Well, talk to us a little bit about Evolution Land. I know it's currently functioning to some degree, and it's a metaverse play, and Meta is getting a lot of attention lately. Uh, you know, expand upon that piece of Darwinia.
Metaverse is certainly getting a lot of attention, and our game Evolution Land combines a lot of metaverse elements into the game. We've got various GameFi gameplays, actually 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different gameplays now, with our player versus environment launching recently. But in terms of Evolution Land and the general overview, perhaps we can invite Crypto Hustler 101 to speak about that, because he's our Evolution Land ambassador. And I do believe he's on the stage here, if you don't mind, and he can take over and talk about some general news, recent partnerships, and what's to come in the future for Evolution Land.
Sure, go for it.
Hello, how's everyone? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
We
got
can
you.
hear
You're a
you.
little
Go
faint,
ahead.
but yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, with Evolution Land, we recently have been releasing new functionalities to the game. Mostly before was mining and mostly focusing on the resources aspect, but we've introduced PvE, so we're able to go through these dungeons and earn NFT items of these materials that you can use to forge weapons to upgrade your apostles. The apostles are the characters in the game. They can be bred. They can. There's multiple functionality with them themselves. But then with the PvE functionality, we're able to focus on more of the stats that benefit their abilities in the PvE. So now with that functionality, we're adding a whole new ability of the crafting with these materials that we earn, and also, so that's the newest functionality in that. So partnerships wise, in general, we have these. What are these considered? Basically, like partners in our metaverse. Essentially, we'll talk on those. So we have various partners, but ones that are more part of our ecosystem, such as Crust Network and Fala and the Star. All of them have land in our metaverse. So this will help with like possible scholarships in the future or additions to the metaverse with their technology. Also, recently we've been in talks with Big Country, so we're able to get some 3D metaverse aspect into the Big Country metaverse. So it will be kind of full substrate based coming forward, and also introducing with our parachain offering for DOT. We're going to be offering NFT metaverse chess. I'll expand on that here in a second. But we'll be offering, if you put up at least 10 DOT towards our parachain on DOT, you'll be entering to be able to win up. There's 1,000 these mystery chests that could possibly have specialty NFTs, including land and apostles. And so if you at least put up 10 DOT, you're able to be a part of that giveaway. As well as Ring and KTON earnings as well for Darwinia. Of course, Megan can cover more of the Darwinia side. But on Evolution, then, so with the PvE functionality, we're adding, we just added some new features actually last night. So with the PvE, each apostle has a certain attack and defense or whatnot. And these also add to an elemental aspect to it. So there's kind of like a resistance and weakness kind of aspect. If you guys ever played, like Pokemon, essentially using like your weakness of fire or water or whatnot. So you'll have that elemental changes every day. And in the game, you have to have these apostles, like a 14. You put it in the apostle adventure. You earn the COO token, which is kind of like your admission to go into the adventure for the dungeon crawl. So just slowly earn that. It's a kind of a sandboxed token. It's not a fungible token, but as your account holds it, the whole functionality for PVE is kind of sandboxed, except for the materials. You'll have to do a transaction to put them in your account. Once you do so, you can trade those. But within the account, we'll be earning this token, which you can't trade it or anything. But that will be your entry for the dungeon, and then you'll earn the items. But with apostles, you're able to upgrade them with our next functionality to forge items. So you're able to add like swords and whatnot, and these will be fungible as well, or non-fungible as well. So you can attach those to your apostles. We do have other things such as pets, which are going to be introduced. We already have those in Ethereum side, but on the Polygon and Hiko side, Dawning and Eden continents, those have mostly been focused on. So except for the pets, so we're going to be introducing pets in Binance Chain. We've already had with Ethereum with CryptoKitties and Polka Pets, and so we're going to be working with Polkapot, or we've already been working with Polka Pets, but they're on a star, and then they're going to be, combined with our NFTs in our game. So those help boost up the functionality or the strength and everything with these apostles as well. So there's other various attachments to these apostles, kind of like a weaponing system, so that's pretty useful. Let's see. So yeah, mostly, so we've been, upgrading these drills. So there's been a lot of that liquidity, and we added new governance, or we've had governance, but now we've been able to focus on the governance. So we've been voting in a lot of proposals. So as a community, we've been able to kind of, change the game a little bit. So it's been really nice to be able to have that, connection with the other players. And then, in the future development, we're going to be on the Crab and Darwinia, or Darwinia mainnet. So with us having the S2S bridge, which is going to be coming out pretty soon, we're able to, instead of focusing on a parachain for Crab or on the Crab network, on Kusama, so we've been able to just focus on having one for Polkadot instead, where we were able to just use our S2S bridge to connect to the Crab network. And so it's going to be a lot easier for us in that case, since Darwinia is more of the house brand in comparison to Crab, it's less known. So, but using that bridge, which will help benefit other chains in general across the ecosystem. So that'll be very useful for everyone. And then, of course, future chains we're going to be connected to outside of the first four, which are Eden, which is Polygon, Hiko, Dawning, and Byzantine Tron, and Ethereum Atlantis. We have Columbus on that side. We haven't came up with a name for Darwinia yet, but that, of course, will be voted in at some point. But yeah, so the future looks pretty bright for the game. There's going to be, hopefully with Big Country, might introduce the 3D aspect, which more people will probably be more interested instead of the point and click. But the game's functionality has been delivered for many years, so it's easy to know that this is going to be a working product. So, anyways.
Yeah, you went deep down the rabbit hole on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Taylor and Chris, I know you guys had some questions for Darwinia. Why don't you go ahead and open it up with your guys' questions?
Sure. Hey there, it's Chris here. That was awesome to get a quick overview of Evolution.land. I think we all agree, obviously, composability is one of the core strengths of doing anything on a blockchain. You kind of went into your partnerships a little bit. I'd love to hear a little bit more color on how exactly that works. So, for example, if I had minted a sword on Evolution.land, when you have a bridge connecting it to, I don't know, Big Country or Sandbox as an example, do I replicate that sword in that other metaverse? And I effectively have, you have a solution to the Vitalik problem that he had in World of Warcraft or whatever. Or am I thinking about that correctly?
I think Megan can answer this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll handle this one. So our our bridge technology, like I mentioned, is vaultless, and doesn't use multi-sig or anything like that. It's not collateralized. So in that way, it can also be used for NFTs. And the first NFTs we'll support will be ERC 721 spec. And just like taking a token from one chain to another, we don't need to wrap them up. We don't need to wrap NFTs. It's just going to be like magic. You can use them on Ethereum. You can also use them on Crab. You can also use them on BitCountry. They will be compatible universally within the Polkadot Kusama ecosystem. And the way we're doing that is we're actually working on a relay to relay chain bridge, which is part of our substrate to substrate bridge package, or S2S as we like to abbreviate that. And that is, if it's not a finished audit already, then it will be finishing up very soon. And that's going to be released probably very soon. We're targeting the end of October, early November, and we're right around that time period now. So we will be we'll be able to facilitate value and communication, or value exchange and communication between Polkadot and Kusama, as well as other substrate based networks. Yeah,
So practically speaking, as opposed to having, say, a wrapped sword from one network to another, the bridge will effectively allow you to transport over the actual sword on the blockchain from one bridge, or sorry, from one project to another.
Exactly, yes. The entire token journey is written right into the token header, just like a standard transaction from one chain to another. We basically summarize the history right into the token header. So it doesn't matter what chain it traverses. We've got all the kind of metadata that tracks where it's from and where it will go. So yeah, it's pretty cool technology, and we're one of the few projects that at this point are working on NFT bridges that are truly spectacular.
Cool.
Taylor, did you have a question for Darwinia?
I had a couple questions for Robonomics.
Yeah, we can move back to Robonomics. That's fine. Let's go for it.
Sure. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, how do developers kind of get started with Robonomics? Is there like an SDK? Are you guys kind of talking to any OEMs about like them using your stuff? And if so, like, what kind of does that look like?
Sure. So it's quite easy to start using Robonomics. We have a wiki. So if you go to wiki.robonomics.network, you will find a few use cases of how you can start with like really basic hardware, Raspberry Pi and a basic sensor, maybe less than $50 that would cost you, that you can connect to Robonomics and start supplying the data to the network. So that's if you want to start technically to use Robonomics. Robonomics also supports standard or a framework rather, which is called Robot Operating System. And essentially it's a standard for communication between robotic systems. It used this file format called ROSBAG, and we were supporting it early on in Robonomics so that ROSBAG file could actually be recorded in IPFS as well and have a hash backed in the blockchain. Regarding the OEMs, yes, we started supporting the OEMs directly as well. So we already actually support most major industrial arms like KUKA, we didn't work with Fanuc, but we work with the Universal Robots, Mitsubishi Electrics. Well, we worked with Boston Dynamics, and we really have a good relationship with them. So they're a pretty special company, but into what they can commit to. But their robots are already connected to Robonomics as well. If a company decides to use one. So yes, I would say it's a mixture of supporting open source standards for communication in IoT and robotics, and also working with some closed OEMs where we have to write custom support for them so that any robot that they build will be able to with Robonomics Network.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I see it's cool that you guys are doing stuff with open source. You know, I see some hardware projects that are blockchain based, and you know, they're a lot of closed source, and you know, like you have to buy their specific hardware, you have to buy their specific device if you want to, you know, use it. And so that's really cool that you guys are doing that. Can you talk a little bit about like the utility of the XRT token and how that'll kind of play into the network?
Dylan, do you want to talk about that, or I can?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd actually also just like to take a step back and just add a couple more things about getting started. Just also just general high level things. We've launched the Robonomics Academy and Robonomics Winter School in the last year. So this is sort of like hands-on training for developers looking to get more insight into how to work and develop and connect to Robonomics. The GitHub also has like all developments and posts, of course. Also, we've actually recently merged the Telegram group into a Discord just to kind of make it more efficient with community questions. And there's like 24/7, well, not 24/7, but you know, there's constant assistance in the channel. And that's kind of what we're striving to create, is like this open discussion of questions in a community that works together. And then the last thing that I'll add on that topic is the grant program that we've launched. We actually did the first round and distributed 2 grants that passed the DAO's approval. And so now we're on the next level of the grant program where applicants apply, and we're just trying to enable people to kind of research and further develop ideas and discover different ways to develop and create applications on Robonomics. And so just more context on that is each grant can receive up to a $50,000 US grant. And so, so moving on to the utility of the token. So to start, there's a lot of questions, right? Because XRT token, and then some of you may be familiar with RWS token. I'll take a step back there. Right now, we'll focus on XRT, but to summarize RWS, you can kind of consider it. This is the way it made the most sense for me, at least. It's a lifetime subscription model to using the network. So you don't have to pay for each transaction that you do, but instead you have like I said, a lifetime subscription. And you can consider RWS kind of a play on AWS, Amazon Web Services, because it's we're seeking to sort of enable the same sort of toolkit and infrastructure for telemetry data storage, but in a decentralized manner. And so moving on to the XRT token, which can be used for gas fees in the network. But also what I find to maybe be the most interesting utility of XRT token is that you can actually also use that as you can essentially bond it or stake it to lease your access, to the Robonomics parachain. So if somebody wants a subscription model, not for a lifetime with RWS, but rather for 3 months, it's sort of a bonding process where they are going to bond their XRT to the network for a matter of 3 months or 5 months. Or I'm not actually. Maybe Vitaly could deliver clarity on if we have if you have to select a time or if you can just choose how long you want to do it yourself. But I find this actually pretty interesting because it kind of aids the kind of tokenomic aspect of it. I mean, I don't want to be a moon boy or anything, but you know, my introduction to Robonomics was as sort of like just really passionate in the project and as an investor initially. And I think that this XRT bonding model for your subscription service to the network is pretty interesting. It creates this idea of reducing the liquidity of the supply in the medium term to the network or to the market in order to lease those slots. And Vitaly, is there anything else you'd add on to that?
Essentially, once we get the Kusama slot, one of the things that we'll launch is the ability to stake your XRT tokens to get a subscription for a certain number of transactions that you can send to the blockchain. So if you, as a company, want to guarantee that your sensor that is connected to Robonomics would be able to send 500 transactions or something a month, then you stake your XRT for that month, and the device that you're using would then be able to send those transactions guaranteed. So not only this gives usability to the companies that actually now can use a more standard approach that is accepted in IoT already, but also that's helping with the long-term tokenomics.
So just to clarify for myself and I guess the group, if we were to use I think the really cool example you guys gave was the Boston, the dog, the robot dog. If one of us wanted to have access to exploring the different functionalities of that dog, you're essentially going to be staking your XRT token in exchange for X number of months of unlimited access to work with the dog. Is that the right way to think about it?
So not exactly. So I, as a developer of a solution using that dog, I stake my XRT in the network to guarantee that the dog can talk to the network, record all the data that it's generating, and being able to transact. But if a company wants to use the Boston Dynamics dog on their facility 24/7, they are actually staking the XRT and doing the renting as well. Yes.
Got it.
Thank you guys for those. That's all I had, Alex.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. Do any of the other mods have questions for either Darwinia or Robonomics before we open it up to the rest of the audience here? And
I have a question about both of the projects' roadmap. Are you following your roadmap pretty closely, or are you adjusting based on timelines and parachain opening and all that?
yeah, go for it, Megan.
Sure, I'll answer first. Our roadmap is we've been following it pretty closely, but being a cross-chain bridge project, some of these blockchains come and go, and ones like Near, for example, EOS, Tron, they had their time in the limelight, and now they're not quite as popular as they were before. So our bridge roadmap kind of changes and evolves kind of with the trends and the times. And so going forward right now, our priorities have shifted from EOS, Tron, Near, XDAI to Binance and Arbitrum and Polygon and Avalanche, et cetera, et cetera. These are all Solana are all new projects on our radar. But other than that, for our core infrastructure, we've been pretty true to our roadmap the whole time.
With Tally Dillon, any thoughts there?
Yeah. So, well, we obviously had a lot of changes in our roadmap for the 5 years because when we started, there was no concept of polkadot yet. But I think that since like a year and a half ago, we did form a pretty stable roadmap of how the substrate-based blockchain will work for us and what is going to enable for us. We got the understanding there early on, and since then started delivering and building on the technology side pretty consistently. We are participating in a parachain slot auctions since summer, so obviously that affects a lot of our strategy and like the use cases that we work on top. But I don't think that changes a lot on the technology team's work and technology roadmap.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add to that is just we actually do have a very specific roadmap that will be activated once we actually do secure the parachain slot. It's sort of like a week by week roadmap of exactly what you can expect with different updates to the Robonomics network throughout our lease. And so that roadmap it has a lot of updates. So I don't know if you know you guys would like me to get into all of them, but it kind of, I think that once we do secure that, it'll very much align us towards our goals and the development goals and preparing for the ultimate Polkadot slot.
And I do really like that you guys are taking the time on Kusama, have a plan to be on Kusama for 2 years before migrating over to Polkadot. That's actually really interesting to hear. And I think you guys are the first team that I've heard say that, maybe outside of Zeitgeist, that also has a long-term plan for Kusama. That's awesome to hear. Ruben, I think you've got a question for Robonomics as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a doozy, but I wrote it down, so hopefully I can get it pretty concise. The context is that IoT in general seems to be expanding in a fairly linear fashion, proportional partly due to the device manufacturer, as well as the sort of onboarding / backwards compatibility of the existing devices. But it seems to me that at a certain device density within a given jurisdiction, the idea of mesh networks, which have historically been pretty limited due to a lack of density, might see adoption to the extent that we see swarm diameters of maybe 10 miles, 50 miles, maybe 100-mile swarms, right? And if that happens, one could see a world where one may choose to connect to the internet not through their ISP or AT&T or Vodafone or whatever, but through whatever local device offered connectivity to a local swarm, and perhaps pay for that connectivity in Kusama or Polkadot, right? Or whoever figures out secure open source P2P routing software to allow for people to connect to their, basically rent out their connection without their personal devices being exposed, right? So my questions are, one, what device density do you think would be required for that version of reality to manifest? Two, when? And three, could the driving force in part be driven by Robonomics? And if so, how can we help?
Thank you for the question. That's really specific and detailed, but really interesting. Because I personally want to see a world where I connect to my local network of devices and don't have to connect to through LTE, for example, because that's more efficient. That keeps the whole infrastructure of the internet more decentralized. Yeah, we all understand the benefits of that. And I think that even the device density already in cities, for example, is already enough potentially to enable that. However, the problem lies on, as you said, on backward compatibility, on standards, on different communication protocols that exist. And this, it is a really difficult problem. And I think that Robonomics can at least partially solve that because Robonomics introduces the concept of value to this market that before didn't actually think about that. And I think this is quite a unique perspective on the IoT market that could stimulate people to connect through Robonomics and through the standards that we support too. And they don't have to be like one single standard because there's a joke like there were 10 standards and it was unusable and somebody wanted to develop a standard that unified them all, and now we have 11 standards. So we obviously don't want to end up with this situation. That is why we do try to work with standards that already exist in the industry, communication protocols, and integrate them within Robonomics, including mesh networks. We actually did a few, I think, pilots a while ago of how devices could connect locally to each other, because back then we were working with drones a lot, and since drones are often used in remote areas, sometimes local connection is actually quite useful. So there is still a challenge that we at some point need to connect to the global internet and synchronize with the blockchain, of course. But I think there is some hybrid model that can already be realized today with the device density. And finally, how could you help? From my point of view, I think that the more people actually get their hands dirty, go to the wiki and connect devices to the network and tell their friends about it and try to show what capabilities Robonomics actually brings to technologists, to roboticists and IoT developers, this would actually stimulate a lot this transition to this grand vision that you outlined.
That's a great question, Ruben. And I'll add to how you can help is contributing Kusama to their crowd loan. Yeah, we need to get them in.
Yes, thank you, Alex. That's number one thing that we want to ask you to do.
Sweet. Thanks for the super thorough answer. Yeah, and I think like whatever community figures that out, that's going to be the killer, right? That helps us expand crypto in general, expand onto sort of municipal areas, but into areas which have suffered for lack of connectivity for some time. So yeah.
Thanks again, Ruben, for that great question. Anyone else on the stage have any questions? Anyone in the audience, please feel free to raise your hands. We'll bring you up. I know I see a couple people on the stage and in the audience that are particularly interested in metaverses. I don't know if you guys had a question for Darwinia, or if anyone in the room does, or any of my mods. Go ahead and ask away.
Hey, so Megan, I actually built metaverses, and it's been a lot of fun. So my question for you is about decentralized storage. What do you see decentralized storage and the role of digital assets in the metaverse?
Wow, that's a really great question. Thanks for asking. I'm not sure I'm really qualified enough to answer. If Bree were here, she would be able to handle it quite well, but I'm not entirely sure, honestly, about our blockchain storage solution at the moment. I know we have a partnership with Crust Network, which could be promising for the future. And in terms of our NFTs, our expert Tiny is not here either tonight because he is also in mainland China. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but unfortunately, I can't answer any specifics about that. Sorry.
No worries. Just generally thought, I don't think a lot of people know anyways. I'm just, thought maybe, you guys have something. So yeah, I guess, thank you for answering that question. We'll learn more about that later on from, the experts in your company. Thank you.
And
For sure. What I can say
we'll
for
relay
sure
that
is
to Bree and get an answer for her from her on the Telegram chat for you, Michelle.
Thank you.
definitely what I can say for sure is that in terms of the game Evolution.land, our front end is using a very popular open source game engine, and the actual assets of the game are all smart or NFT based. So they are transferable. I mean, we could change the game engines and retain all the same assets because they are all ERC 721 and ERC 1155s. So hopefully that gives you some more insight into how the game works.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Josh, did you have a question? Great name, by the way.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. We're working on a project in what we consider to be the metaverse, and I I keep hearing the idea of metaverse is it seems to be something very specific for a lot of people, and I'm curious as to anybody here on stage that has a definition of what they feel the metaverse is, because I think where the project we're working on, we define it as something entirely different than what a lot of people and a lot of folks are seeing it as, and I find it very curious and interesting, and so I always ask the same question: what is it to you? Because we see it differently. So I'm curious as to anybody that has any feedback on that.
I'll try to answer that. About the metaverse. So I actually advise like a bunch of like non-blockchain company, including spatial, which I think is really the future. As well as a few VR companies, and then also NFT on the blockchain side. And when I think about metaverse, I think about AR, VR, and XR, and also spatial computation. That's what I think about. So I'm just wondering, cares about what your definition is.
It's not so much that somebody else cares what my definition is. It's that I find it very interesting that many people that are discussing metaverse are saying very similar things to you, as in XR, VR, 3D related platforms, and we don't see it that way. But I know, I think I know why a lot of folks are defining it that way. But I guess I kind of look back at oh gosh, what was the movie, like Wreck-It Ralph, where Ralph was a 2D character and he was in like a metaverse, within video games, right? And that's kind of how we define metaverse ourselves. But I think it's interesting that a lot of folks that are defining metaverse, it's always talking about XR, VR, AR, 3D universes, and to me that's a very interesting take, because it seems to be almost universal, the definition that I hear.
Yeah, I think people, I think it's gonna be a hybrid or mix of everything, right? Because like when you really like what your example of what your definition is, like the free guy is an AI in the metaverse or in a game. But then like I'm seeing a lot of new technology that is more spatial. So we're basically outside of the web, like there's spatial web, right? So that there could be layers, just kind of like the movies, where things platforms just kind of jump in space. So it's going to be like that, so one of the project I'm advising is doing like physical spatial, where you tap on something physical and then something digital comes out, right? I mean, like those are the things that you see in the movies, and yeah, I think that is part of the metaverse as well. I really don't think that Meta, the company, is going to own the entire multiverse.
I would just jump into, as a quick aside, to say that everyone should read Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. He's the one, it's like the first kind of cyberpunk novel that came out in the early 90s, and he's the one who actually coined the term metaverse. So going back to the roots, just wanted to throw that out there. It's a great read.
Cool. You don't mind I jump in? The way I view the metaverse is very much like a stack, similar to the OSI model. If anybody's a sysadmin here or into computer networking, where we have bits on the wire at the lowest levels. As we go up the infrastructure layers, we get into the application and programming interfaces, and then finally the user interface at the very top of the stack, which most people these days think is a VR layer. But it's very much a whole. There are many different elements and components on the way up to the user experience when it comes to metaverse. Projects like Darwinia are operating at the very lowest levels of the stack. and others like BitCountry are working more in the software layers and user experience.
Go for it, Josh.
Yeah, that's kind of how we saw what we're doing as well. We see it more for our own purposes. We see the user experience, and like I started doing this with them. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I see information currently like Netflix and everything else in the world where it's all rented. So for me, the metaverse is, particularly with NFTs, the idea of owning your identity. And that doesn't just mean your identity of your physical body, right? It's owning who you are both physically and digitally, and it's not a license. It's actually ownership of who you are, and something that nobody else can take away. It's kind of like the idea of going to university, right? Somebody can take away all your money, yet you still have your education. And to me, that's what metaverse is. It's the ownership of your full identity, whether that's 2D, 3D, or anything else, or even up to ownership of a digital book or a digital movie when it's done with an NFT, where you own every part about the thing that makes you a complete person digitally. And to me, that's where we're focusing. But I do find it interesting how many people I talk to that talk about VR, AR, and XR in particular, because I think that that's kind of, maybe it's kind of what people have seen in the movies. I'm not sure. I know I look at it from a more legalistic approach, and because of that, I see it from a different point of view. But I think we're going to see a divergence of how people view the metaverse. And I'm not even talking about, Facebook or anything else. I'm talking about the idea of metaverse in and of itself, of what it means to different people. And ultimately, by having different definitions, we're going to see different technologies emerge, I think. And I think that's very cool and very interesting.
Hey, Josh, just want to, this is Mark speaking, want to throw it out that, different people are going to interpret the metaverse in different ways, and perhaps like the AR, VR, like gaming side might be more like artists and gamers, people that identify as artists and gamers, and then more the identity or like protocol stuff might be lawyers and programmers and stuff like that. And it could just be where people's experiences are coming from. They all come together in the metaverse, right? Like artists are going to think about AR, and lawyers might be thinking about identity and different approaches.
Yeah.
Actually CEOing a AAA game company. And I can tell you that I look at identity. That's one of the things that I brought up to our CTO. And and like I work with a few identity, like Linton Tree and other identity related projects, but definitely, right? Because we have avatars and stuff like that in that, right? And then compliance and the payment side as well. I mean, I don't think that the metaverse is simply just games and artists, right? I mean, it's just the whole ecosystem. And I think we look at a diversity of items and challenges, and those are new, right? So like, who knows what the answers to some of these things are? But I think we will see as time progresses.
Yeah.
Hey
As a
guys, so thank
yeah.
you for that. I just did want to get back to because we do have Darwinia and Robonomics here, so I did want to make sure that we're taking advantage of the time we have to kind of more direct the questions to the projects themselves.
Yeah, Nicholas, thanks for steering us back. Good discussion. But yeah, let's try and focus on the projects on the stage here, and then we can open it up for more general chat. Want to be respectful of the speaker's times. Sam, I know you got a question for Robonomics. Shoot, go for it.
Yeah, thanks. Who on stage is with the XRT team?
Vitaly and Dylan.
Telly and Dylan, cool. Hey guys, yeah, I one of the problems that I'm most passionate about, actually, it's funny, kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier. The thing that got me into interested in cryptography in general was actually the Facebook acquisition of Oculus, because it kind of put me into this moral panic where I basically realized that Facebook was going to try to put a mind reading device against the temple of every man, woman, and child on Earth, and we should probably try to do something about that. And like one of the ways in which I think that is going to have to be dealt with is at the level of verifiable hardware, cryptographically verifiable hardware, right? Where you're able to prove certain things about this device that you're holding in your hand, that it isn't doing certain things you don't want it to do. And I know that you guys are working, or you're thinking about this, and I've seen things on your YouTube where you were, thinking about having like hardware where you could prove it was assembled in a certain way. And I just wanted to know like where your head is at with verifiable hardware these days, especially considering the launch of WorldCoin and their fancy cryptographically verifiable eye scanner that they're making a big deal about now.
Thank you for the question, Sam, and great meeting you. So yes, we also are freaked out about Oculus acquisition, actually, and I think we tackle that on multiple levels. So first on device security in general, so that we want to make sure that the device can be launched only based on the transaction from the blockchain, so that the owner of the device or the legitimate user of the device that has the key can only get access to that. And I think on more of like philosophical side, I would say we did have a discussion internally in the team that we are essentially building an anti-Skynet network that prevents like the Skynet from appearing in general as a concept, because essentially, think of it, there are already autonomous devices around us. They're like, we have them in the house, factories are full of them, they're in cities, and we definitely don't want all of them to be connected and run and managed by a single entity from a single server. So I think by design, what Robonomics bring to the table is more decentralized IoT infrastructure in general, or IoT and robotics infrastructure in general, that doesn't allow anybody like Facebook to have full control over the whole network.
Cool. So do you, in your mind, do you think that it's actually possible to have something like a digital camera that can create like cryptographic proofs of the fact of non-tamperedness, like tamper-evident digital photography that is absolutely untamperable, and like as a protection against the deep fake apocalypse that we're all worried about? Do you think that that is possible at all? And do you think that Robonomics might be the thing that could help get us to something like that?
Yes, I think it's possible, and we actually, I think we already done it, because we actually have Robonomics connected to one of the factories that builds drones, and on the line there's a set of cameras that record every part and mark it, and then at the end, the final finished product has a digital passport recording in the blockchain with all the parts that are, well, part of this product are also kept track of. So essentially, now we can know where the parts came from, when the product was assembled, what's included in it, and have a transparent way of verifying hardware, essentially.
Right, that's cool. Yeah, I saw something like that. It was a while ago when I was first looking at you guys, but it sounds like you've moved like into the market with that, which is really cool. Where could I find more information on that aspect of it, and like keep up with the development of that?
Definitely, there is information in the Robonomics wiki robonomics.network.
It's pinned to the top.
Oh yeah. awesome. So you find information on the use cases section there, and if you want to actually follow the development and contribute, yeah, the GitHub is everything is open source, so we are happy to collaborate.
Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, two of the things that I really think it's important to have verifiable hardware for are cameras and hardware wallets. If you don't have some kind of way of verifying that the object in your hand, corresponds to a particular CAD file or something like that you're looking at, you're never really going to get away from this recursive problem of can I really trust this device? Like, it's like, yeah, you can run like a Bitcoin full node on your computer or whatever with your hardware wallet, but like to a certain level, like unless you're actually running the encryption and hashes by hand, you're never really sure that the whole thing isn't just spoofing the experience to a certain degree. And yeah, I think that, like, particularly the hardware wallet, like until we've figured out how to get like a verifiable hardware wallet, you're never really going to get that true root of trust to these things. So yeah, that's really cool. Thanks. And yeah, I will definitely check that out.
I would like to ask a question.
Jason, just give us a second. Florida Man is next. Florida Man, give us your question. Florida Man, you there? It's a great username too, by the way. I think he's not there. Jason, go for it.
Apologize for jumping the gun. I didn't realize there wasn't even no order there. Usually I sit there and never get to ask a question. But thank you. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for being here. I've been speaking about robonomics on Clubhouse for a while now. I've been speaking about robonomics, in other places for a while. No one's always seems to never heard of robonomics. But I'm glad that you're here and have a presence. I kind of have like a two-part question. One, and it leads right off to what the gentleman was saying. That's what I really wanted to add now. Was first I'll start with, have you heard of Patriot One Technologies?
Can you repeat that? Petri One?
Patriot One Technologies. I think they're actually based in Canada.
I haven't. Dylan, did you?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Okay, so yeah, like if maybe I'm the person so I help network and bring everything together. So Patriot One Technologies is this company that's actually starting. They're using their system in casinos and other venues and places like that in America and the States, and maybe other places I don't know of. But pretty much is there like they have like the software that recognizes things like weapons, as well as they can even detect fentanyl and stuff like that. And I was wondering if that could ever all be put together with like using the blockchain. I think that would be really interesting with like robots. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I was wondering if, and then my other question was, I seen your certificates on OpenSea, and I was trying to buy them. Are you all ever trying to sell those, or is that just to let people know about your achievements on the blockchain? I'm Jason B. I'm done sharing.
So on the Patriot One, I actually checked out their website. I haven't heard of them before, but I mean, yes, there is definitely opportunity for companies like Patriot One that manage infrastructure, physical infrastructure, to work with robonomics. And on the certificate side, so Dylan mentioned that we have an academy and a winter school, and we essentially work a lot with the developers community and educate people of how to connect devices to the network and set things up. And we run lessons on how to do that. And once you complete the lesson and perform the challenges, we issue the certificate to you. So the certificates are not tradable, but we actually have a robot that is painting, and it sells NFTs, for example. So I think it's being added functionality right now. So like people work on it right now. It's not online at the moment, but it's going to be online again, and you can order a painting from a robot, and that is an NFT you can buy.
Oh, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing. My last question, I don't want to take up. I just have I've heard of something called Aries chain, and there was I don't know. I was heard there was governments or something. There was a token, but they were just testing out to like identify people. Something using like Hyperledger. Have you ever heard of Aries chain token?
Also didn't hear, no. I do have a somewhat negative, I guess strongly negative opinion of Hyperledger. Um,
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to share more on that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thanks for those
yeah,
questions, Jason.
thank you for the question, and thank you for the support of Robonomics in the chat. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, I'm a holder.
Awesome, man. I'll say it again. Go bond to their crowd loan if you want to see Robonomics on Kusama. Yeah, guys, I think we're good with the questions. Unless anyone else in the audience had any, you can also, of course, ask any other Polkadot related questions about crowd loans and stuff. If you guys wanted to, we're here to answer some of those as well. But we do close rooms out with two kind of fun things. We've got Mackenzie on here, and Chris Solana is king now instead of Bitcoin is king. But Mackenzie usually does wine pairings for the projects. There's a possible NFT project that might be on the horizon that will kind of do these wine pairings and put them on the blockchain as well. But Mackenzie, give us your wine pairings for Robonomics and Darwinia. What do you think?
Okay. This was tough, you guys, but I think I got some good wine pairings for you. So yeah, thanks first and foremost for having me, Alex. I'm always so happy to be in the Polka House room and using my sommelier skills in crypto land. So Robonomics. I've decided you guys are going to be a wine pairing of Gruner Veltliner. Gruner Veltliner is an Austrian grape. It's typically grown and harvested pretty early in the season, and it's usually tank fermented in stainless steel. So it's really crisp, mineral. It's got this kind of like white pepper, citrus, and a little bit of like a green edge to it. And this made me think of the kind of like steel material you would get in robots. They usually use a screw cap as well in this region. So you kind of got this like metal aesthetic. And what else is cool is that Austrian winemakers are really like leading the scene right now in the natural wine movement. And just like, Robonomics, you can build a robot and get creative and, kind of be the master of your own destiny. I feel like this, out of any region right now, is really like pushing the envelope of how wine can be produced and made in like a new playful way. So that is my Robonomics pairing. So on the other side,
Thank
Darwinia.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
any
very
questions
much.
about that or you want feedback, let me know.
I appreciate it. I've looked it up already. I'll have to get back to you with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Try
I guess
one.
we'll drink it and we'll tell you the
Yeah,
feedback.
absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure, you guys. This is awesome. Okay, so cheers to Dylan and Vitali from Robonomics. For Darwinia, so I love your guys' kind of like purple pink aesthetic, and I know you guys are kind of getting into the cross chain and potentially metaverse side of things. So even though like the Robonomics was also kind of playful and creative, I thought you guys would have something kind of fruity, playful, youthful, and something that would really show the like joie de vivre, like allowing everyone to really come in and enjoy themselves. So I'm giving you guys Cru Beaujolais. Beaujolais is the Gamay grape. So if you guys are familiar with Burgundy, Pinot Noir, just south of there, there's a granite-rich soil region called the Beaujolais. And typically, this grape is fermented in something called carbonic maceration. This is a little bit nerdy, but essentially they put all the grapes in a tank, flood it with carbon dioxide, and rather than the yeast fermenting with juice, it actually causes an intracellular fermentation inside the grape, causing them to pop, and then the juice starts streaking down. And so it makes these kind of like cinnamon, cotton candy, and really like fresh, exciting aromas to it. And it's pretty youthful. Every November, they do like a Beaujolais Nouveau release, and there's big parties in France. So, I see the big vibes going on for you guys. This is also the best wine with a charcuterie or cheese board. So definitely something you can loop in if you're hungry.
Amazing. That totally sounds like my kind of wine and charcuterie. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Mackenzie. Thanks for those. And let's document them in our wine pairing projects.
Woo!
Chris, close us out with some TA, man. What are we seeing here? I know price action is important for some of the people in the room.
Okay, so do you want Solana, Dot, Kusama, or Engine?
No, dude,
Which one
give
do you
us
want? Yeah,
Dot
I'll
and
give you them
Kusama.
all. Which
Just
one do you
Dot
want
and
first?
Kusama. Dot and
All
Kusama.
right.
This is Polka House.
So Dots obviously has a lower low below 48.50. And that doesn't need to be a daily close, but it probably would be. That would imply a $45 consolidation range. I assume that once the crowd loans start taking place, or I'm sorry, the auctions start taking place, perhaps you won't get the same rinse and repeat that you got with Kusama because the whales are intelligent enough to maybe make some naysayers or doubters a little shaky handed. But I imagine if we are going to see continuation soon, we'll see dominance rise and we will see, and this is a very easy target for Polkadot, you need to start capturing 4-hour candles back above 51.50 or just close tomorrow above 52 bucks. That should do it. Your first topside targets around 57 and 61. That's going to be a pretty heavy range for bots. But once you've cleared that space from an algorithmic perspective, it's going to go in like 10% jumps. So ultimately, by the end of the year, is $81 a probability, maybe even 84, 85? It actually is. So from a downside potential, I really don't see why price action would go below $45. That would imply that Bitcoin maybe lost like 61K again and was back into the high 50s and everything's taken a shit. So as long as that doesn't happen, I imagine if you bought Polkadot before $45, you're safe indefinitely. And then, which is crazy, right? Because some of you bought it for 11 and 12 and 5 and 2. If we look at Kusama, it's a little more of an interesting story because there's a lot of volatility here. Right now, your range is 440 to 466, but it's actually okay if you can just claim consistent daily closes above 420. Trend is fine. You can't do that forever, but you can do that for another week or two. I don't think that's going to happen, but you could do that for another week or two, especially if alts slow down and Bitcoin rallies to a new high in the next couple of days. But Kusama is interesting because the thing is, if you are to break back above 474 on a daily close, 520 is your next major area of interest until 630 and then 780. So it's like, holy shit. You go from $30 and $40 moves to $100 moves very quickly. Then you start thinking about the total supply and the liquidity, and you start thinking about the auctions and the public, people like the, well, not just you guys, but lots of good ideas can come. I think, I mean, by the end of the year, could Kusama have a new all-time high? I assume if Bitcoin breaks $81,000 and we see everything follow suit, I would not put it past Kusama back testing previous highs or creating new ones. And if we were to see a really insane rally here, like closing the monthly above 71K and getting a 6-month bull run till April or May, I actually have DOT closer to 111. And please, no one think I am a moon boy here, but if you don't think Kusama can hit somewhere between $1,150 and $1,200, from a market perspective, that's not even crazy. So, and please, Alex, forgive me, but I need all of you to also understand Engine can definitely break $10 in the near future as well. So this ecosystem between DOT, Kusama, and the others are going to be incredible. And while we're at it, keep your eye on Chainlink because it's the only one that should be moving and isn't. It will probably be very explosive.
No, those are all good because they're all kind of related to the Polkadot ecosystem. Engine is building affinity on Polkadot, and Chainlink is already a pallet
Ooh,
Natively.
Efinity 164 consolidation above 140 is solid. If you can break back above 180, you have targets well above $2. And from a market cap perspective, 3 is not out of potential possibility, and even 4 or 5 in the late stages if somehow Engine's liquidity also were to go up 3 or 4x. I don't think that's necessarily like on track for right now, but due to the proposition of the Polkadot and Kusama's ability to facilitate in the prospect of the Affinity token. Let's just keep it as vague as possible, ladies and gentlemen. But everything that's been speculated here and what we've seen from a lot of this tech that's being built from this ecosystem, the substrate is it's incredible, and the idea that man, just the idea that interoperable or SQL is not that crazy. And I'll shut up, Alex, but people don't realize that putting data into a container and removing it from a data set and putting it into a different data set, you have to understand this is done every day in SQL. So the fact that it can be done at some point, hopefully through blockchains, and that layer 0 technology will be the foundation for something like Efinity token to work. Well, guys, we did it. So, good luck. Not financial advice.
Yeah, I'm glad you closed with that. For everyone in the room, none of that was financial advice, just something we do for enjoyment. Chris does have a great club called Rational as Fuck. Go give that a follow. Give him a follow if you are interested in TA. He does rooms every day at CME Close. So if you're interested in that, definitely give him a follow.
And a lot of utility focused NFT stuff in our club as well. Lots of utility. We love art, but we love utility.
Thanks again, Chris, and thank you to all of our mods. Thank you to all of our speakers. We're going to go and close out. Want to be respectful of our speakers' time. If any of the mods, any of the speakers have any closing thoughts or want to say anything, please go ahead and unmute yourself. If not, we'll go ahead and close this room out. Thank you again for everyone joining, and join us next week every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Next week we'll have Bit Country, the Talisman Wallet, and Zeitgeist join us for a chat. And yeah.
I just want to say
Polkadot
thanks everybody for your
Robonomics.
time.
Thank you.
And one other thing, we're posting our talks now on polkahouse.club after a couple days after the event, so you can go on there and stream old talks we have. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully
Thank you.
this all make the
Thanks for
world
having us.
smoother and safer place.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. It's amazing stuff in here.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. And as Taylor said, go to polkahouse.club if you want to listen to this again, or if any of you missed any of it, you can find it there probably by tomorrow evening. Thanks again,
And it
everyone.
looks like we're going to have a room with Zeitgeist on the 16th and
Yeah,
Ignite here.
Yeah, Zeitgeist, Talisman, and Bit Country.
Going to be popping.
They don't really like it. So, like, my kids will eat, like, mac and cheese, and they'll eat. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm at the store.
That's all right. All right, guys.
My kids are closet vegans, is what I was telling him, because like my shopping list looks weird, but it's like my kids won't eat steak and hamburgers and chicken. I don't know why, but they just they barely touch that stuff. So at least I don't see it as.
Hey, Vince, Ollie, did you guys want to say anything? I know you joined here on stage pretty late, but if you guys had questions, go for it.
Hey, what's going on? I literally just jumped in the room. I've been talking with Jay Hill earlier about this. I'm a complete 100% noob to dot ecosystem, but not to crypto. Been in crypto since 2016. But just super quick question. I've been into gaming and metaverse for about a year now. That's my thesis and my play. And I saw that Affinity, which I own Engine Coin, has a parachain, and I'm just trying to understand how it works. A super noob question. When it says waitlist, and I'm looking everywhere to find out how to join the waitlist or be a waitlist, does that mean that it's already taken up, or there's how do I get into the Affinity one on a waitlist?
Yeah, that's a good question, Vince. So Efinity hasn't opened their crowd loan yet, so you can't contribute until they activate their crowd loan palette. So uh, they're saying that they're going to go on their community call. I think 2 or 3 days ago, they were saying they're probably going to activate it during the third slot auction. So that would be in about 3 weeks. The first auction starts on November 11th. Akala is very, very comfortably in the lead with about 10 million DOT bonded to it already. That's the equivalent of about $50 million. Moonbeam's in second place with about 5 million DOT bonded to it. And then third place is currently being battled out by Parallel and A Star with both of them at about 1.5 million DOT. Efinity, I think, was going to go for the fourth slot, so they'll probably activate a week or two before that.
Thank you. And just for clarity, I'm sorry, again, new question. 100 chains are getting a slot, or only how many chains are getting a slot?
Yeah, so on Polkadot there will be 100 parachain slots initially. Now, people sometimes think that that's a limiting number. I actually think that that's a great number. If you think about, try and think of 100 really good projects on Ethereum, you'd struggle to probably think of more than 20. So I think 100 is a really good number. It's going to take about, I'd say close to the whole 2 years to launch, 100 parachains onto Polkadot. That's a current mathematical number, based on the validator network that Polkadot currently has, but that can change in the future as the validator network grows. That number of parachains can also grow. But keep in mind, Kusama also has parachain slots. Some of the projects will choose to stay on Kusama, or at least stay on Kusama for a while. As Robonomics has stated, they plan to stay on Kusama for 2 years before they migrate over to Polkadot. So it's an interesting ecosystem. It's complex and it's multifaceted. So the questions are warranted, I think.
Super duper helpful. Not trying to take more time up, but I do have a couple follow-ups. This is super helpful again because I'm a complete noob to Dot. Literally only own it, have never interacted with it. Okay, so I again, my thesis is gaming. It's done very well for me so far. So I'm like want to put my Dot into as much gaming. So the Darwinia, I did see that when I was looking at the parachains.info earlier. I guess my question for the room, and I think this is a Darwinia room, is kind of what is the difference between Darwinia and Efinity as far as I know their technology is different, they're doing their things, but as far as kind of anybody's take on it, whether I should split my dot between two. I understand Affinity and I understand Engine because I've been in those ecosystems for a while now, but I'm just trying to see if maybe I should split some dot into Darwinia or get someone else's thoughts.
Darwinia and Engine are a little bit different projects. Engine is focusing on the gaming aspect and the interoperability specifically for games and in-game objects and currencies. And Darwinia is more focusing, although we have a gaming component, certainly, we're more focusing on the cross-chain value transfer and communications aspect. So we're really a cross-chain bridge. Whereas Engine is more of a specialty gaming focused chain.
Very helpful. All my questions have been answered. I really, really appreciate everyone's insight. Thank you.
But hypothetically, you'd use the Darwinian bridge if you were going to take. So, like, let's say that Engine is parachained into Polkadot. Wouldn't the Darwinian bridge be one of the things that facilitates the interoperability if you were going to move NFT collections? Like, not for the API idea of them being interoperable for like the gaming aspect, but the way I look at Infinity Token's value is that it could be acted as a container to put a collection inside of and move that collection somewhere else, alleviating major gas fees you would have on other platforms. Wouldn't that be a bridge that could be used for that sort of application?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. We could in theory take an NFT collection that's been wrapped all into one and move that across any of our interconnected chains.
And this is how I encourage everyone to think. right? Because that's what makes Darwinian special, is it'll facilitate in the other things that we see as excellent opportunities for us to expand and interoperate in the space. Well, we need a safe bridge, and I love that we have one. So thank you guys for doing this AMA today with everybody.
Well,
Okay.
thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
All right, follow-up new question. You were talking about Akala and Moonbeam, which I am familiar with those. Because they have so much staked in them, is it kind of how other crowd sales work, is in the more people that are staked in those things, the less allocation that you'll get as far as when they do get the rewards? Or I'm just going on assumption how other things typically work in crypto.
No, that assumption is correct. Yeah, the token allocation is a percentage of the total tokens goes to crowd loan contributors. So the more contributors you have, the more that token gets dispersed, in smaller increments to every crowd loan contributor. So, if you are thinking about that and you do find a project that you like that maybe won't win the first 5 slots, maybe it's going to win one of the 7th or 8th or 10th or 15th slot, there may be some interesting, mathematics at play with a lot of the people contributing to these early crowd loans, less people contributing to the later ones. Most of the projects have similar percentages stashed away for their crowd loan contributors. So you could very well end up with a larger share of a project further down the road.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries, Vince. Good questions. All right. Well, if anyone else has anything, go ahead and bring it up now. If not, we'll go ahead and close the room out. Thanks again for our speakers. Thanks for staying a little extra time. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining Polka Haus.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for hosting.
Thanks,
Bye.
Yeah,
Alex.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Very appreciative.
Thanks, Alex. Take care.
Yeah, see you, Mackenzie. Fly safe.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
All right, closing this room out in about 5 seconds. If you guys need to follow anyone or follow the club, go ahead and do that now. And thanks again. Closing out. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alice. Good night.
Good night, brother.
Peace.